Are you ready to make the most of your oil and gas mineral rights? Welcome to the Mineral Rights Podcast. Get the knowledge and resources you need to manage your minerals and royalties. Here is your host, Matt Sands.
Hello and welcome to the Mineral Rights Podcast. I'm your host, Matt Sands, and I'm joined by my co-host, Justin Williams, and we're here to help you make the most of your minerals and royalties. And we have a special sneak preview of an upcoming in-person convention where you can meet me and other experts and learn about how to make the most of your minerals and royalties. So I'm really excited about this upcoming opportunity to network with other like-minded mineral and royalty owners, and then also just to really up your game in terms of learning about all the things that we need to know as informed mineral and royalty owners. And there's a lot of things that are changing. We have things like crypto mining, CO2 sequestration and storage, legislative changes, and all of those types of things that we need to go into and learn about. And then all the basics, and just kind of refreshing our memory on some of those things and going a little bit deeper on some of the more technical details. So Justin, I think it's going to be a great convention coming up here. It's for the National Association of Royalty Owners, or NARO. And, both you and I are involved with NARO, both at the state chapter level as well as on the national board in some form or fashion. So, it's a volunteer-led organization. But you want to talk a little bit about NARO and kind of what you have learned as a member?
Yeah, absolutely, man. One of the top questions we get is, where can I learn about this? And though our podcast is a really wonderful place to learn the fundamentals and the basics, you always need somewhere to keep up to date. What's changed? What's coming? What has happened? What are some different perspectives and some new things to look into? And the National Association of Royalty Owners is really the answer to that. Not only that, but when minerals are hot, a big question we get is, how can I get involved in being a part of the legislation and being part of making an impact? And NARO's also the answer to that. And Matt, the mission statement of NARO is to support, advocate, and educate for the empowerment of mineral and royalty owners. And over the last few years that I've been involved, they've really stepped up their game to do just that. And the organization's been around for a long time, Matt, since 1980. And I'll let you kind of fill in the details of the history, but the organization brings a lot to the table. And what we're talking about today is the National Convention, which is taking all of the effort and the best from all the state chapters and really rolling it up and putting one shot into the gun to have this amazing convention, which this year will be in Houston, Texas at the Royal Sonesta, which is a beautiful hotel. And we're going to have a lot to offer.
Yeah, it's going to be really amazing. We'll talk about some of the highlights on the agenda. So we have that pretty well finalized. And so you can learn about some of the topics that'll be covered, the different speakers that'll be there. But like Justin mentioned, we'll be in Houston, Texas, October 16th through the 19th, and an amazing opportunity to meet other mineral and royalty owners that you can form your own mastermind groups with. Like we talked with Ryan Fairbanks in episode 249. He mentioned the idea of meeting with other like-minded people that have similar goals and objectives to share best practices, to share learnings. And so I know that many of our members look forward to our national convention as a way to meet with their friends that they've met through NARO and that are going through the same things that they are. And a lot of them stay in touch even in between these annual meetups and, times when they get together. And so that's an important thing and a great opportunity that's free, as part of this convention. So, that's a big opportunity. But, diving a little bit into NARO, I think that, I've been involved with the organization now for going on maybe 6 or 7 years, and on the board of both starting out the Rocky Mountain chapter, the former Colorado chapter, and then now on the national board. And my role as the national president this year is to lead this convention and to help make sure that we're meeting the educational needs of our members and we're advocating for your rights on national issues. And we have a PAC that does that, and they meet regularly to go over different issues that are affecting mineral and royalty owners. And then we have a NARO Foundation is really tailored around the education portion, and they facilitate our mineral management program, which is a certification program that we offer to people that want to become registered mineral managers or certified mineral managers. And there's a whole curriculum that we're going to offer on that Wednesday, October 16th. You can take the Mineral Management Review course, which is a 4-hour course that goes through kind of a deep dive onto the basics of what you need to know to manage your minerals and royalties. So we'll go through things like the different types of interests, how to calculate your decimal interest and actually have examples you'll work through, how to read legal descriptions, and really get your hands dirty and learn how to do some of these things. So it'll be content based, and then also some hands-on stuff where you'll work through some different problems and learn how to do those basic steps that you need to do to calculate your decimal interest, to confirm your division orders and things like that. Even if you don't decide to get the registered mineral manager or certified mineral manager designation, it's a great way to learn about minerals and royalties, in addition to the amazing speakers and all of the presentations that are included in your registration when you register for the national convention. So that mineral management review is a separate registration, which you'll find on the website. We'll link to in the show notes for all of this so you can find out more. But it can be a great way to really, before we even get started with the convention, to get a basic overview and deep dive into that. On the first day when we start the presentations, we actually have another additional registration. There's an introduction to mineral ownership class that Jimmy Wright and I will be presenting, and that'll be a 3-hour course from 8:30 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. on Thursday, October 17th. And again, this is some of the same types of things that you'll learn in the mineral management review, but really a very more of an introductory level, and just kind of give you an overview. So if you're brand new to mineral and royalty ownership, this is a great course to level set your knowledge and understand the basics around, this asset that you've inherited potentially. And, if you're looking to invest or wanting to learn more about minerals and royalties, is another way to really understand that asset class. So a great opportunity there. And then diving into the main meat of the convention itself. And then we'll talk about some of the highlights of the location that we're at. I think we're at an amazing location. October in Houston is actually really pleasant weather-wise. I lived in Houston for a number of years, both growing up and then when I first started working in the industry. And it can be hot and humid and miserable, I would say 8 months out of the year, but starting in October through like March, it's beautiful there. And October is probably the best weather in Houston, very pleasant, kind of cooling off at night, amazing place to go visit. If you're going to go to Houston, go in October. We're really fortunate to have Houston as our host city. And then Galleria is an upscale area with world-class shopping, restaurants, boutique shopping, you name it. The Galleria Mall is one of the largest malls in the world. It has an ice skating rink in the middle of it. It's so big. Definitely something to check out. But Justin, do you want to talk a little bit once we dive into that general session, which starts at 1:00 on Thursday? What are some of the things that people will learn that afternoon?
Matt, I think one of the great things is right in the sort of the general sessions here, the growing demand for lithium is something that's going to be talked about by Kyle Reynolds. And this is a hot topic right now in the mineral world. I mean, we're seeing operators go out and invest major amounts of money to drill for just lithium. Maybe oil is the byproduct in those situations, which is what a change of the game. And then, Matt, there's also a mineral owner panel discussion. Barb Rankin, who's been on our show before, was going to talk about what I wish I had known. And I think this will be really informative for mineral owners because you really don't know what you don't know until you get into it. And those of us that have owned minerals for a while, we've made mistakes. And learning from others' mistakes before you have to make them yourself is always the best bet. And Matt, Barb Rankin, we had her on episode 120. So if people were interested in going back and listening to that, they could hear Barb's story. Barb is heavily invested with the organization, and a familiar face we see quite a bit, whether that be virtually or in person. And it's great to see that she's taking part. So thank you to Barb on that. There's going to be Corey Pate, who she spoke at the Colorado State Convention. She put together an absolutely wonderful presentation on Division Orders 101. And not only talked about the fundamentals of division orders, but what does a division order analyst do? And I think this is an interesting thing for a mineral owner to hear from their perspective. Matt, one of the morals of the story that I took is be nice. They're really, really trying. And I think it's easy to feel adversarial, but she really talks a lot about what their job is, what they're there to do, how they can help, and some of the common problems that mineral owners face. Matt, there's the second day, which is Friday, October 18th, starts at 7:30 a.m. with breakfast. So at 8:30 a.m. looks like the NARO National Annual Meeting will take place. We'll talk about what the National Association is going to be working on in different aspects and what's grown over the last year. I'm sure we'll get a wonderful introduction to John Corcoran, which he's been wonderful for our organization, and he'll talk earlier as well. Matt continues on at 9:30 a.m. with Unlocking Ohio's Utica Shell. And Tim Parker is going to be speaking there. And then also Jeb Burleson from Ed Barris, who's going to talk about upstream industry trends. And though, Matt, we've had a different speaker in different places, the data that they bring to the table is just incredible and not something that mineral owners have access to. Their software is typically used by operators. So it's great to see some of those trends that they see in the data.
Yeah, that is amazing. And they actually they'll be talking, I'm sure, about Mineral IQ and the Energy Link product, which is what the mineral owner side of things and what the royalty owners typically use. But that's an amazing presentation that they give. And you can kind of see some of the trends in different basins in place. You can understand what the activity level is in your area. What are the operators doing? How long is it taking them to drill and complete wells, and all of the data that goes behind that. So that's amazing information that they'll be sharing. And then that is when we split into two different tracks. And so we'll have two concurrent sessions for the remainder of Friday afternoon. And that gives you multiple chances to dive into some basic types or beginner type topics. And then we'll have some more advanced topics, and you can kind of pick and choose between the different presentations you want to go to. But do you want to talk about that first group of sessions that you'll be able to listen to and learn on Friday?
Yeah, absolutely. So Matt, track A, if you go that route, it's the more advanced topics, kind of gets into the nitty gritty of what is the cutting edge, some of the more technical aspects of the oil and gas industry and what's coming and what's happening. So it starts out here in the advanced track with Retained Acreage 101 with Nicholas Miller. And goes on to at 145, we've got the digital pipeline, which talks about the intersection of natural gas flaring and crypto mining. Continues on with carbon capture and storage, which has been all the rage over the last quite 5 or 6 years now, at least. An update of new uses of subsurface resources. We've got measurement about hydrocarbon allocation audits, which, Matt, that sounds far more technical than I am, but I'm sure there are folks who are love to hear that. So wrapping up on the track A presentation here at 4:15, we've got an ethics presentation by Daniel Charest with Burns Charest Law Firm, which Spencer Cox is somebody we've had on the show who works for Burns Charest. And there's been some really large antitrust litigation that they've done, and I think would be wonderful people to speak on this topic.
Yeah, it's going to be an amazing advanced track. And then on the beginner track, we will have the operator perspective. So we're fortunate to have Stephen Lord, who's senior counsel with Marathon, and he's worked both on the mineral owner side of things as well as on the operator side. So we can give you the perspective of what it's like and what are some of the things that operators think about as they go through and try to develop oil and gas projects. And so that's important to understand, what some of the drivers are for them, to understand how you can work most effectively with operators. And so that'll be a great presentation. And then we are so fortunate to have Nancy McCaskill, who's the AAPL president. That's the American Association of Petroleum Landmen. And in this session, she's going to talk about hiring a landman. How do you work with a landman? So as a mineral and royalty owner, oftentimes, like we've talked about in our Q&A sessions, in fact, our October Q&A, we just recorded that, and we just covered a question about how do I go and research my property? I don't live in the state where my minerals are located and the stuff is not online. What do I do? She's going to talk about what to look for in a landman and how to go about hiring a landman. And so that will be very helpful. I'm looking forward to hearing that, because there's some amazing resources the AAPL has to help you find and hire qualified landmen that have taken ethics requirements and to agree to abide by a code of ethics, which is amazing and really can be helpful. So that will be a really informative session that everybody will get the chance to go to. And then in the afternoon, in the beginner track, we have a session by Michelle Phillips, who's the VP of Land at Lime Rock Resources. She's going to talk about the reality of escheated funds. And so in this session, she's going to talk about what escheated funds are, how do you deal with that? What's the way to go and go after those unclaimed royalties? And so that's going to be very informative and probably have some really actionable tips that'll come with that. Then at 2:30, we have a presentation on 1031 tax deferred exchanges. So Greg Lehrman, who's an attorney with Excel 1031 Exchange LLC, is going to tell us about 1031 exchanges how minerals and royalties fit into that. How do you minimize your capital gains exposure or defer your capital gains liability if you have an investment property, and how you can maybe invest in minerals and royalties with that. Then the next session is Hunting for Resolution, Accommodation of Surface and Mineral Estates in Today's Environment by Bill Slagle. And this is going to be interesting, Justin, because, we hear oftentimes about conflict between surface and mineral estate. And there's a thing called the accommodation doctrine, which says you have to work basically with that other party and be reasonable in accommodating their needs. Generally, the mineral estate is the dominant estate, but I'm sure Bill will cover some of the things that we have to consider in working with the surface owner to access our minerals. And things like solar and wind, this gets to become very complicated, and this accommodation doctrine becomes real tricky. So I think there'll be a lot to learn in Bill's presentation. Finally, the last presentation of the afternoon on Friday would be estate planning and probate with Edward Wilhelm, and that is going to be amazing. There's so many things that we can learn to make sure we're making the most of our estate planning and to minimize what our heirs have to go through in terms of probate, in terms of passing down our minerals and royalties to the next generation. So that'll be an amazing day. I'm sure I'll be taking a lot of notes, listening to these amazing speakers. And then that's not it. We have a reception each day. So we have heavy appetizers and drinks that'll be offered, and amazing food. We had the pleasure of hosting our annual board planning meeting in January at the Royal Sonesta there at Houston Galleria. The food was amazing. It was really a nice hotel, so we're really looking forward to it. But Justin, Saturday we wrap up midday, so if you want to go explore Houston and all of the amazing things that Houston has to offer, you'll be able to do that. But then there's some different things that'll be offered before that session wraps up.
You said it, Matt. Yep. And we've got just a couple of presentations that day. We've got pore space law and application to carbon sequestration, and how to identify fraud by Atlanta Straub, which is the NARO Texas chapter president. And then we get into the fun stuff, which is a raffle drawing, including remarks by John Cochran, the executive director for NARO, and then CMM exams, because everyone would love to wrap it up with the test for those that studied at the beginning of the convention here. But that's an important thing, and allows those folks who are looking to be certified to walk away taking the test if they're ready, and to work towards that certification.
Yeah, absolutely. And in that morning, the first thing we have the caucus between each of the chapters. So if you have minerals in Texas and you want to meet other like-minded Texas mineral owners, there's a session that'll be available where you can go and network. And so this will be a dedicated time for you to network and to learn, meet Lana, our Texas chapter president, and find out what some of the things they're working on. And same thing, all of our state chapters will have a caucus, and you can meet the state chapter president. You can learn about the things that they're working on, and then also just meet other mineral and royalty owners and exchange information if you want to stay in touch after. And then, of course, during each of the receptions and all of that, there'll be plenty of other networking opportunities. So that is also an amazing thing that's available there. And, I think the key thing to remember, if you're thinking about upping your game with minerals and royalties, this convention is a great way to do it. You can meet a lot of professionals. We'll have amazing exhibitors and sponsors there. So if you're looking for somebody to help you with an appraisal, or if you're looking for a landman, or if you're looking to just get help with managing your minerals, there'll be folks that offer software solutions, and then also mineral management services, education, coaching. All of those types of things are available through our sponsors and exhibitors. So you can peruse that during the breaks and meet those people and find some experts to help you in your journey, because you're not alone. I think the main takeaway here, Justin, is that in going to this session, you'll learn that there are a lot of other people that are going through what you are going through, and there are amazing resources out there to help you.
Yeah, you said it, Matt. And this is a collection of some of the best. There are many other folks out there helping mineral rights owners, but this is really a collection of the best and the most knowledgeable in their areas. And Matt, we're saying one more time, we're talking about the National Convention from October 16th to 19th, 2024. And it's going to be held at the Royal Sonesta Galleria in Houston, Texas. And so we'll have a lot to offer mineral right owners. And I think you'll walk away with more information than you know what to do with. But at least you'll know what's coming and what's changing in the mineral rights market.
Yeah, absolutely. So key dates to remember. So when this goes live, we'll be just about a month out from the convention. So there's still plenty of time to register and to make sure you can book your flights and still be relatively reasonable. So be sure to act quickly. Registration is filling up. There's a discounted room rate, which again, we'll link to all of this in the show notes at mineralrightspodcast.com. And then if you are going to go, get your discounted room rate. They're only $179 per night at the Royal Sonesta Houston, which is a huge discount. It's an amazingly nice hotel. I stayed there in January again for our planning meeting, and it was really nice. And so definitely an amazing venue, very reasonable hotel rates for the quality of hotel that we're staying at. And that discounted rate ends on September 24th. So when this goes live here, you'll have less than a week to make a decision to book your room rate. So definitely don't wait, because you don't want to miss out, and the room rates do go up after that date. So definitely register. It's very reasonably priced for the amount of information, you're getting. What's the total? So the number of continuing education credits you'll get, it's like 23 hours of continuing education from attending the convention. And when you look at it, from the cost standpoint, very reasonably priced. You have food and drinks available. You have breakfast. You have lunch that's included on the main day on Friday, and then the receptions with the appetizers and drinks that are included. So, you get a lot for the registration amount. And the member registration is only $649. So if you're an existing member of NARO at any level, you can get that rate. And so if you're not, definitely join at our introductory rate, which is only $75. In fact, there's a promotion if you go to the website right now and sign up to view the free webinar, provide your email address, you'll get a coupon code to get a discounted introductory membership. So I think in total, it's going to be less than $700 to become a member of NARO, get access to all of the recorded webinars that we offer, that we've recorded in the past, and then all of the live webinars that are coming up in the future, which we have at least one a month. And in fact, during the beginning of the year, we had 4 or 5 per month. So there's an amazing amount of educational resources that are on tap if you become a member of NARO, and through the members section, get access to the archive of all of our monthly newsletters, all of the recorded webinars, and that's included when you become a member. And then again, going to the convention, you get that discounted price. So it's really an amazing opportunity, but don't wait, because again, there's only a limited number of spots available. So make sure that you take advantage if you can. If you don't already have plans, October 16th through the 19th, we'd love to have you join us in Houston. So thanks for letting us give you a little highlight about this. And I think it's just something that if you aren't familiar with NARO, worth looking into. The membership is very reasonable, and you get so much for that in terms of education and upping your game. So in addition to what we do on the podcast, I'm a volunteer for NARO, and Justin's a volunteer for NARO, and it's an amazing organization. So hopefully this helps. If you're thinking about attending, it gives you a little bit of a deep dive and understanding of what's going to be on tap. It's going to be a great time, I think.
Yeah, you said it, Matt. Yeah, and it's a very different experience than the state convention. So if you attend a state convention, this is going to blow you away as far as expectations on how well this is put together and all the different speakers that we're going to have there. It really is just the highlights from everyone, and just a huge powerhouse. So yeah, if you can be there, you'll learn a lot, and you'll be really tuned into what's going on. And I would say that you'll want to come again the next year.
Yeah, definitely. So thanks again for listening, and hopefully we'll see you in Houston in October. Thanks, Justin.
Thanks, Matt.
Thanks so much for listening to the Mineral Rights Podcast with your host, Matt Sands. Don't forget to subscribe and share at mineralrightspodcast.com. The Mineral Rights Podcast should not be construed as investment, legal, or tax advice. All information is believed to be from reliable sources. However, we make no representation as to its completeness or accuracy.